much of this can you see? Oh, with this wide lens you can see everything. Great. All right. I need a cup. I think the cup. Oh, wait a second. The dishwasher's clean. Just grab it out of there and use it again. Perfect. All right, fresh tortillas. I need 2.5 cups. Let me double check my recipe. Two and 1/2 cups of unbleached all-purpose flour. 1, 2. You really should measure with a proper thing. I just eyeball it here. That's 1/2, 2.5 cups. Small measuring cup. It's 1/4. So how many you need? 1 teaspoon. So I need 4 of these. I think I I made it a couple days ago. I don't think I put enough salt in it. It was enough, but it wasn't as much as it could be. Okay, so 1 is 1/4. We want a teaspoon. 2, 3, and a heaping one for 4. Okay, want to make sure you have enough salt in it. It's not like the be all end all, but I mean, when you don't put enough salt, you do notice it. I put a decent amount, but I think it needed just a little bit more from the other day. Do a quick stir in. This is a whole stick of butter. I just melt it in the micro before I start. You can break it up in there. That's a lot more work. This is a lot easier. Get that mixed around so it kind of cubes up or balls up like this. It works pretty well. Now, the thing about this, you get a whole cup of water. I put in about half to begin with. And see how much you need after that. You don't necessarily need the whole cup. As a matter of fact, it's probably 3/4 of a cup is the right amount. But I always just start with a half and then work my way up. You don't want to get into the trap of there's too much, there's not enough salt, or there's not enough flour. Add a little more water, add a little more flour, add a little more water. You don't want to get into that. That is, you just run into trouble, and then everything's out of proportion, and not fun. Okay, it's just a little bit. So I add another little splash. This water I warmed up for a minute, but then I let it sit on the counter for a couple of minutes. So I like to have the water, I always just say around 100. Just a little bit warmer than your body temperature. So that way when you put your finger in it, you go, it's warm. But it's not gonna burn you, but it's just warm enough to still be pleasant. If that makes any sense. 100 degrees, right around there. Because otherwise, well, I mean, I took this water out of the fridge, so it's gonna be cold. But yeah, just warm water, salt, butter, flour, that's it. Simple recipe. You can add different stuff. Instead of butter, you're supposed to use lard, actually. That's the differentiation in my recipe from the place I got it from. But Just make sure there's no flour left. There's just the dough. And you're gonna have to, I'm using the clock on my camera as a guide to see how long I've done this for. Just get my hand a little wet. Just moist, not dry, obviously, but not wet either. Just not even damp. It's just so when you feel it, you're like, oh, okay, that's nice. It's not mushy. It's not, but it's not flaky and dry, and it looks like scratchy. Is the word I'm looking for. Scratchy. You just need it beyond scratchy. So it's nice and smooth. It's got enough water in it. Looks scratchy, looks rough, but that's fine. As long as it's, keep your countertop clean. We're gonna cover this and let it rest. We beat the crap out of it. It needs to rest now. Rest for about a half hour. 30 minutes. So it still does not look very good, but that's fine. We don't really need it to be. Just gotta flatten it out as much as I can, because we're gonna make 10. 10 seems to be the sweet spot for this recipe. I've never scaled it up. I guess you could scale it up or scale it down, however you see fit. If you look really hard, you can see my brain working. Just making sure that everything comes together properly. About the size of a ping pong ball. It's going to have a seam. That's just the way it is. You can really work on it and take that away if you need to, if that's your thing. I just found that making them into a ball as tight as possible, but just it's going to be a bit rough. It's going to come out. It's going to kind of be uneven. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. 9's fine. So between 8 and 10 is what you're going to make here. Now this was another piece, so I'm going to mix it together a bit more. Make sure that it's all together. There's a couple, like this might be a bit too big. And this has a bit of a lump it doesn't need. So, got 10, more or less, right? So you want to have, ideally you put it on a scale and you measure it out, but it doesn't matter. If you're trying to impress somebody, I guess that's the way to do it. So, cover this over for about 5 minutes. In that time, I'm going to put some flour on this plate, and I'm going to turn on I'm going to do this on a 12-inch non-stick pan. I'm going to turn it on low and let it start warming up. It takes a few minutes to get it nice and hot. When we start actually doing it, it's great to have this thing nice and searing hot, so when you put the tortilla on, it just starts to cook right away. So 5 minutes. Got our stuff here. My pan, I think, is hot enough. It feels hot enough. So I'm going to swing you over in a second, but let's take one of these guys. You see this? I just flatten it out. You want to try to avoid that. It's going to happen. But you try to avoid it as much as possible. So that way when I'm start flattening it out, it all comes together, right? So pan, or plate, make sure it's nice and covered. Quarter turn. Keep going. I have a tortilla press, but I just had better luck doing it with a rolling pin for whatever reason. There we go. Just as flat as, I mean, you're trying to make a thing you're putting food in, right? So make it a little bit large, so that way you can hold more food in it. And it'll be, once we cook it this way too, it'll get stronger, and we'll have a nice base to put our pork in, or whatever you're making with it. Today I made pork, so I made some pea veal. So, but you guys can make, I mean, these are great for everything, right? Just, I mean, breakfast tacos, they hold pretty well for a day or two. You want to eat them, you want to pack them up in something like a plastic bag or something like that. Not a plastic, you know, a Ziploc bag. Let's move over. I'm trying to multitask here, obviously. And all right. Now we wait. What I'm going to need you to do, I'm going to have my back turned, making the next one in the same fashion. Just flatten it out, cover it with flour, then roll and pin it out to your desired size. But what I need you guys to do is when it starts to bubble, scream. Just give me a nice scream, so that way I'll know to turn around and flip it so I won't burn them. Then, last one. You gotta scream, gotta scream. Give me a good scream. Hey, bubbling. When the bubbles really start to go fast, that's usually around the time. So, like I said, 90 seconds at the most. You can probably get away with like 60, 70 maybe. You just kind of have to feel it out. There's probably an exact science to it, but I'm just doing it this way. That works out well. Now we have a whole 10 tortillas, freshly made, ready to go, and just a little over an hour. And then of course, if you scale it up and you have somebody helping you, you could easily do a couple dozen without any problems. Let's give them a taste. Who'd have thought something I kept over the fire like that would be hot? Took the oddly shaped one. Ooh, it's hot. Ooh, it's good. Okay. Make sure you measure out your salt. Teaspoon, maybe a little bit more. Don't do too much, obviously. It's, you don't want to take. These are perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. I gotta get my dinner ready. I'm gonna use these. I'm gonna eat.